So, I think, okay, fine. So, we are having students joining us. So, like always, we'll wait for 2 more minutes so that even others could also join the class. And please do let me know if my audio is not clear enough, or if there's any other difficulties in terms of other aspects, such as technical difficulties. Do let me know that now. And today's class is about Delhi Sultanates. Today's class is about Delhi Sultanate. And I think it's been like 1 week or so since I had a live session. So how are you all been? And our registration was supposed to be open by February 10th. That is your prelims registration this month. But don't know what happened. We got the notification saying that the preliminary registration was on February 10th, and the window will be quite open for 2 or 3 weeks. But that didn't happen. I don't know why. Probably we'll just have to wait for a few more weeks or a few more days at least to know when the official date for the registration for the prelims will start. And I really hope a lot many students will be joining this year for writing the exam. So yes, so I think we should start on with the class already. So if there's any other technical difficulties, do let me know because I'm about to start the class. So yes, so today's class is all about the Delhi Sultanate, and we must have heard about, especially from the movie Padmavat. It was first initially made into Padmavati, but then they later on changed the name to Padmavat due to lots of controversial reasons. So we know that that was a time period before the advent of Mughals over here. We know the Mughal Empire, they had a very flourished system of establishment here in India, but there was also a category or a different time span of period here in India before the Mughals came here. And yes, they were also Muslims, and they were also from the western side. That is, they were mostly Turks, and they came from first they came in here for looting and plundering, especially these Ghaznis and Ghuris. So yes. This is a Delhi Sultanate which started off with the slave dynasty, Khilji dynasty, the Alauddin Khilji that we saw from the Padmavat movie. That is Ranveer Singh. He was from the Khilji dynasty. Then we have Tukla Dynasty, Said dynasty, and at the end we have Lodi dynasty. But before we get into the slave dynasty or the Mamluk dynasty, we need to know the background. That is, how can a few invaders or how can few people from different foreigners, they just come here and settle here in India, and how come they have dynasties over by each one of them? How can they have their establishment here in India? For that, for knowing that, it's very much important for us to know what is the background or what is the reasons that led to the establishments of these sultanates or these Muslim rulers or these foreigners, these invaders. So, yes, if I would say a brief introduction about sultans, I could say that they were here for almost 320 years. And yes, our medieval history, when we would look into especially a GS paper 1. GS paper 1, we have history, that is Indian history, world history, and the geography also we have. But we also have a category called arts and architecture, and the monuments and building, the crafts, music, everything related to it. I would suggest that the most flourishing aspect of this medieval period during these sultanates, and yes, of course, during the Mughal period, was these arts and culture. These, there were lots of patronages of these arts, culture, and architecture, and music and dance. And yes, we will see or look into these aspects in the coming classes. But today we are just going to briefly discuss all these sultanates and all. So yes, these were the dynasties that we have, and they were the Persian-speaking dynasties of Turkic and Afghan origin. They were controlling India from 1210 to 1526. So, like I said, Mamluk dynasty means the first one over here. Mamluk dynasty means slave dynasty. So, what does that mean? How can few slaves come over here? Okay, so Okay, like I said, is that the early humans were food gatherers. From that what happened? When they started farming or when they started agriculture, what happened? They have to settle down. That is when you're not growing plants or all these cereals, saying that okay, I'll just grow here and come back here after few years. That's not possible. You are sowing a seed so that you will be able to reap it and have it. So once you start having agriculture or some sort of farming, you will start to settle here. So settlements will come after that. And what happens after settlements? A sort of like a political system or a societal institutions will start to form, like a group, and that group will convert to be a family. And when the family will be established, there will be cultures, there will be traditions, and that's how we get civilizations. So all the aspects are interconnected and interrelated. So over here, when we say that India during those period, in these transient period from ancient to medieval, we could say that it was totally disintegration, just exactly how when these Britishers came in here in India. That is, we were having not whole of Mughal Empire, we were having a small here, smaller kingdoms and all. So what is the problem? When people are not united, when all these kingdoms are not united, it's so much easier for any external influence to come here and overpower them and completely shatter everyone. So that is the basic reason why these Turks uh, were able to conquer, were able to loot here, they came here to plunder here, and we couldn't do anything about it. And Turks attacked India from all sides and were getting quick victories. They established the empire in 13th century. The period between this the first one is the Mamluk or the Slave Dynasty, and then we have Khiljis, Tukla, Sayyids, and the Lodis. And at the end, okay, in historical perspectives, also we could divide history into many categories. For example, we have prehistoric, proto-historic, and historic. So, prehistoric means when you have no literary sources, nothing. Okay, for example, the Stone Age period. What do we have? We only have these archaeological evidences, the tools that they use, the weapons that they use. So from that, we could decipher some meanings out of it. And then comes the proto-historic, where we have some literature. For example, in the way in the Harappan cultures and all, we get few inscriptions here and there, but that's no point over here because we cannot read it. The languages being used in this civilizations is not disappeared yet. So we could say it's a proto-historic period, but that's not a point because we can't read the literature. And then comes the historical period, and all these period after the Vedic culture, because the most important source of this Vedic period is the literary sources, and we all know what is that. These Vedas, Brahmanas, Aryanakas, and the epics, and all, especially the Mahabharata and Ramayana. The reason I'm just quickly going through the background of the ancient history is because if there is anyone who haven't watched the previous videos, for the sake of those people only, I'm just quickly having a rundown through all the the previous parts of it. So over here, during the medieval period, we have both inscriptions and monuments. Inscriptions, yes, the literary sources are very high during those period, and also the monuments. Like I said, during the Sultanate period, during these conquest period, we have lots of cultures, we have lots of architectural, we have lots of arts being blooming. Why? When people from a different culture come over here and when they come over and invade here, what happens? Sort of like intermingling happens over here. When they intermingle, a new forms of culture will be formed. For example, we have language called Urdu and all. So Urdu is a language which is a mixture of, if I could say, Sanskrit or Hindi and Persian language. So it's not just that, like art forms, for example, Kathak and all. So lots of art forms. What happened? What happened? Kamal Chopra, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Is it buffering for anyone? Okay. Okay, so when these invaders or when these outsiders come here in India, we'll have sort of like intermingling, and this will, in short, create lots of cultures over here, and that is what the reason we could say we have lots of sources over here during these medieval period. And inscriptions, yes, many inscriptions were found on coins, monuments, mosques, temples, places, and milestones and tombstones. We have lots and lots of, historical evidences, archaeological evidences. And in the parts of arts, culture, and architecture, we are going to learn extensively from the medieval period. And yes, also we also have some parts of the ancient Indian history covering all these architectural, especially during the Ashoka's period and all. But most of the architectural or the infrastructural bloom happened over here in the medieval period. Excuse me. Good evening. Good evening. Okay. So, yes, most of the inscriptions are in Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, Hindi, and other languages. Some inscriptions have both Arabic and Sanskrit languages. These inscriptions gave a lot of information about the political, social, cultural religion. For example, if a person named XYZ, or the first king, if I would say that, the first sultan, if I would say that, what is that, what does that he have an inscription? For example, he wants to get the people know about the new taxation system in his dynasty. So what we'll do, he'll put up in inscriptions and he'll keep it in marketplaces, in many centers and rush areas. He'll keep all these notices so that people will read it and get to know about it. So such inscriptions, and when we read the inscriptions, we'll get to know about taxation, all the economic policies, religious policies, and mostly these people were not theocracy, that is not democracy, theocracy, that is these sultans, they strictly followed rules of Islam. And yes, and administration seen during this period, especially during our Alauddin Khilji, he's said to be an amazing administrator, and all his policies and all are very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shimani Singh. Thank you so much. Yes. So yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, the Alauddin Khilji, Ranveer Singh Padmavat, he has, he's known to be his administrative skills. He's very good at it. And how do we know about it? For example, like I said, same thing. For example, he wants to let his, all these generals or these army officials know about a system uh, of fees or their salary structure. So he'll write it down and let them know. So when these inscriptions are kept stored and when it's been read out few years later, we'll know about lots of systems and all these revenues about them. And some inscriptions describe the gift given to religious and charitable institutions. Yes. So yes, that is also there. And yes, Pihoa inscriptions suggest that Delhi was founded in 736 by Tomars, that is Rajputs, and they ruled over Haryana region with Dilika or Delhi as the capital. So these are the old names. Okay, for example, Delhi or Delhi's old name was Dilika, and yes, Tomaras were Rajputs people. And Serban inscriptions in South Delhi gives information about Delhi during the rule of Muhammad Tughlaq. So they give extensive account of it. And like I said, we cannot simply have all these dynasty. For example, the first one is slave dynasty. We cannot have all these slaves coming here and ruling us. So there has to be a someone or some specific kind of people who are reason behind it. Someone who's very much powerful, and why that is the reason why all these outsiders came in here, have a political and administrative control over here in India. And India is not like any other place. We were highly prosperous and we were very rich. So the first main reason is Mohammed Gori and Mohammed Ghazni. So the first one was Ghazni and the second one was Gori. So they were actually, not conquerors, I would say that. They came here to loot here in India. For example, Mohammed of Ghazni, they came here to loot for 17 times, 7 times here in India. For example, a thief comes and steal from my place. Okay, first time I understand. Probably because, for example, okay, I'm not saying that. For example, if I am rich, a thief would come and steal me and I'll be, deprived of all the richness. Second time he comes, again he loots and goes. So I have nothing left. But this is Ghazni that we're talking about. He came here 17 times. So what happens when someone comes here for the 17 times? When he is from a different Afghanistan or very much far away land, he came here 17 times. Why? Because we were highly prosperous. For these people to loot and plunder us for 17 times, you have to imagine how much of richness that we had here. But Gauri only plundered us for seven times, he for 17 times. And if I would say that, how did he get the English word loot from them? Okay, from here in India. So yes, so the name Turk was first applied to. So they are the basic, or they are the foundation in which these all these dynasty came and established over here. They were highly powerful, and they were nobody could overpower them. So they are the reasons. They are the first cornerstone why they came over here, and with them the other dynasties set their foot over here in India. So yes, so the name Turk was first applied to a clan of tribal chieftains who have founded the nomadic Gokud Empire that is present Turkey. These nomads roamed in the Altai Mountains in the northern Mongolia and in the steppes of Central Asia. The Gokturks were ruled by Khans whose influences extended during the 6th to 8th centuries from the Aral Sea to the Hindu Kush. So, this is just a basic introduction of what Turks were. And, for example, how we have Sharmas or how we have, Khans. Khans is, if I would say, a foreign name, or all these, surnames, if I would say, which is associated to their family or gotra name. For example, Shenois. For example, all these kind of names and all, Kapoors and all. So same over here, Turk is also a name applied to a sort of like a tribe or sort of like a clan. All right. So the first one, cities of Ghazni and Gauri. In the 9th century, Arab empire started disintegrating, decline. Two kingdoms emerged prominent. The first one is Ghazni and Gaur means Gauri, okay, which are in present-day Afghanistan. And Afghan people are said to be, for example, how we have Rajput people. If you have seen the movie Jodha Akbar, there is a line. I am not sure exactly what the line is, but the contextual meaning is that Rajputs are these people. Rajput means warriors. These Rajput warriors are these people, even if their head is being cut off, even then they will keep on fighting because they are very much, baller they have in them. So something even similar could be, used to be described for these Afghan people. They are very, agrarian. Here they are kind of like elegant, but over here, these Turks or these Afghan people are very aggressive. They are not gonna back down. You cannot, make them lose. They are here to win and they will win. They have immense willpower, they have immense strength and agility. And yes, the rulers of these two kingdoms invaded and plundered Indian subcontinent in 11th and 12th centuries. By 10th and 11th century, the North India has disintegrated into small kingdoms. Like I said earlier, by the time these people came over here, we don't have the whole of the India. We have small spaces. For example, suppose for example, if I would say that, uh, Pakistan comes and attack Punjab. Suppose all these states, just imagine all these states to be independent countries. They are not part of one country, they're independent countries. For example, Punjab is one country, Haryana is one country, and then we have Gujarat and Rajasthan to be different countries. So these Pakistan comes and attacks Punjab. So since they are different countries, the kings of these kings will be, they are sort of like rivals. And what happens when Punjab king is being attacked by the Pakistan? Obviously, the Gujarat king will be happy, and probably the Gujarat king even might help the Pakistan king to defeat the the Punjab king. So similarly, the same thing over here. What happens? They are not unit. They are not one whole, and also they have internal rivalry between each small kingdoms. And yes, these all led to these invasions and these plundering and looting. And these attacks were done to finance the ambition of expanding the empire. For example, Ghazni, he did not once settle here in India. He did not settle here in India. He just came, looted, plundered, and went away. And he came here 17 times, looted, plundered, and went away. He didn't for once think about settling here and having his home and having a kingdom over here, having a capital. Nothing like that. Nada. So the first one that we're going to discuss briefly is Mohammed Ghazni, and he was from 1971 to 1013. After the decline of Abbasid dynasty, Subutukin, a Turkish noble, acquired the adjoining parts of Ghazni. His son Muhammad wanted to achieve the glory. Muhammad is him, okay? Achieve the glory of the greatest conqueror of the world. He had heard about the wealth of Indo-Gangetic plains, which is us Indians. So even during those period, for example, we have lots of travelers, and all these travelers are pretty much famous. And all these people, when we come here, when they have all these, make all these rich travelers about the accounts over here, the richness over here in India, they will obviously take it back to their homeland, and they'll obviously show this to their kings and all these noblemen and all. So they have heard a lot about the wealth of Indo-Gangetic plains. So they have a certain sense of curiosity and wonderment. And he attacked, plundered North India 17 times from AD 1001 to 1025. So hardly 26 years, but he plundered here for 17 times. And one plundering is not just lasting for a day. You know how long a plunder or a war will last here in India? And he believed in jihad, which is holy war, which will lead to heaven. So I'm just stating here, okay? I'm sorry if this is being offensive to anyone. I'm not. And plundering the region. He looted the rich temples and trade centers, example the Seaston and the Multan. He also fought with the rulers of Gur to establish its superiority. That is, Gur is Gauri, Muhammad Gauri. He had a fight with his own people, so that his own neighboring places, so that he don't want other people or the other neighbors from his place to come here and plunder or loot here in India. And list of invasions, we could say that he attacked Punjab, Ujjain, Gwalior, Kalinga, Kannauj, and Delhi, and they had their own forms of established temples. I would say they came here mostly attack temples. Why? Because temple is one place where there are lots of maximum amount of riches. Maximum amount of riches will be in the kingdoms or in the palaces. Next part will be in these temples and all. He also attacked and raided rich cities, towns like Nagarkot, Multan, Alwar, Taneshwar, Madura, and Somnath. And Somnath temple you must have heard about. And when Muhammad army was advancing to plunder Somnath, the Hindu inhabitants were so sure that the Iron Lingam would save them that they stood calmly. But killing and plundering took place, and 50,000 people were killed. And just see the digits, okay? See the digits. 1,300 kg of gold. That is, one sovereign of gold is only 8 grams. So how much will be 1 kg of gold? So compare that with 1,300 kgs of gold we found from the temple. And millions of dinars were looted, and more importantly, people were killed. So that's the hardest part. Mahmud was a successful general and conqueror who never suffered a defeat. Apart from the war, he was a patron of art, architecture, literature. Like I said, during these sultans or during these invasions, only we had high flourishing of culture, arts, and intermingling of different languages, culture, literature, arts, and any forms of it. And his capital Ghazni was adorned with many, that is, how much of money he looted from here, he used it for infrastructural facilities in his place. Okay, very smart. His capital Ghazni was adorned with many beautiful buildings, mosque, libraries, a museum, and a university. Here is quote scholars Al-Biruni, a Persian poet. Firdausi Al-Biruni must be, you must have heard of him. Firdausi received his patronage, and Firdausi wrote the great epic Shahnama. Al-Biruni spent 10 years and wrote a book describing India called Tahqiq-e-Hind. And yes, this is the empire of Ghazni. And the death of Muhammad of Ghazni was that before his death, he annexed Punjab. So this was actually a, sort of like a success before his death. Later on, he died in 1030, and he was actually he had a son, but he was even overthrown. His son, I forgot to write over here. He had a son, but even his son couldn't. The problem with all these monarchical figures, if I would say that, suppose if the father is very much successful and very much strong, but his successors, there's no guarantee that they will be good enough. And they are choosing the next successor only on the basis of lineage or the paternal lineage. They're not seeing whether this person is capable enough or not. And he used the wealth plundered from the temples to protect his empire from the expanded kingdoms of Central Asia, which is the Mongols. And the next one is Mohammed Gauri. That is, after Ghazni, we had the next invader, Mohammed Gauri, who also came here to loot, but he is less considerably, not that much cruel considering Ghazni, because Ghazni came and looted for 17 times, but he only looted 7 times. He sort of like had a administration system over here. I could say he's semi-settled over here, but Ghazni was all about just stealing and just running away. And after a gap of 150 years, after Ghazni, Muhammad of Ghori, a Turkish ruler of small kingdoms of Afghanistan, attacked the Indian subcontinent. He was also called Muhammad. Ghori is the name place, and the invasion laid the foundation of Turco-Afghan rule in India. Muhammad Ghori attacked the 5 Rajput kingdoms, Rathod of Kannauj, Chauhans of Delhi and Ajmer, Sholankis of Gujarat, Paramaras of Malbar, and Chandelas of Bundelkhand. Excuse me. So yes, so Muhammad Ghori's conquest was that he captured Multan first, and he later defeated Solanki of Gujarat. He conquered Peshawar, Sialkot, and Punjab. So right now this is in Pakistan. In the first battle of Terrain, Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan. You must have heard of the famous story, and I would just briefly say the story. Ghori came to have a war here with Prithviraj Chauhan, Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Gauri. Uh, but Prithviraj Chauhan, being a very good person, a very noble person, he left him free. He said, "Okay, Mohammed Gauri, you made a mistake. It's okay. You can just go away." But 1 year later, he came again, and this time he defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, and he captured Prithviraj Chauhan. He made him blind and sort of like tortured him. And I think there was even a film made by Akshay Kumar, if I remember. I don't know. I think that was before the Corona onset and all. So I'm not sure whether the movie is still there or not. And yet, in the second battle of Terrain, he defeated Prithviraj. Later, he also defeated Jaichand under the rule of Kannauj in AD 1198. Second battle of Terrain put an end to the Rajput dynasty. And yes, Rajput dynasty. And yes, like I said, one difference Gauri from Ghazni was that Ghazni just came here, looted, and went away. But Gauri, even though he looted, he was careful enough to have few sorts of representatives over here. He said, "Okay, you look after this place, probably in a way that no other people or no other invaders will come here and conquer. So you just make sure that you look after this place in behalf of me." So for that reason, Qutb bin Aibak, or a slave, okay, slave of Gauri, was appointed. Muhammad Ghori appointed his faithful general Qutbuddin Aibak as governor over his territory, and Qutbuddin Aibak further defeated the empires of Madura, Gwalior, Bundelkhand, and Malwa, and the general Bakhtiar Khalji conquered Bengal and Bihar. And what happens, for example, what happens, same here happened here in Mughal Empire. When Mughals were very powerful, for example, during the periods of Ashoka, I'm sorry, not Ashoka, I meant Akbar. During the periods of Akbar, his his territorial power was very very huge, and he had lots of nawabs and generals and administrators in different places. Not practically possible for Akbar to look after the whole of nation. He would be appointing lots of ministers, or the names given to them will be nawabs, and these nawabs will be appointed in different places. But when Akbar is strong, his nawabs or his appointed ministers will be very much faithful to him. But what happens when the other successors of Akbar, okay, which are not that much effective in terms of power? So what happens? These Nawabs will be saying, "No, now I'm not longer any longer under you. I'll be establishing my own place. You're good for nothing, ruler. So I know to look after my place. So I'll be looking after my place." The same thing happened over here when Muhammad Ghori died, or when he died. This Qutbuddin Aibak felt that, okay, now there's nobody above me, so I'm free from everything. So I'm not a slave anymore. I can take over as my own dynasty. So that's what happened over here. And Muhammad Ghori died while trying to suppress the revolt of Okhras. He did not have any sons, so his governors became the independent rulers. Fight for power broke out among these governors, and Qutbuddin Aibak asserted his supremacy. This laid the foundations of the Turkic Afghan rule here in India. And that's how we have the first Sultanate, or the first Sultanate name is Mamluk dynasty or slave dynasty. Mamluk means slave. So I would say just a few differences between Ghazni and Gauri was that Ghazni was just plunder and loot. He actually set up an empire, even though he didn't directly rule over here. He had his own appointed ministers over here, and he did not appoint governors. He appointed faithful governors and continued to expand the kingdom. Yes. And there were a number of reasons that led to the defeat of Rajputs. That is a weak war machinery, slow moving elephants versus guerrilla warriors. For example, if you have seen the movie Parashi Raja, that's a Malayalam movie, that the movie really showcased that guerrilla warfare is when, for example, you having a battle here in the forest. Okay, just a superficial example. You're having a battle in the forest, and you have no idea of this place. So when the inhabitants of this place, they'll be having much more knowledge than any outsiders or invaders. So when they are hiding behind these trees, and when the opponents come there, they can attack them by surprise. And this is one specialty of these Afghans, because Afghans terrain is something, you could say the terrain is not, for example, here in India it's mostly plain, if I could say. Even though we have central plateaus, they are mostly plain. There is no humps and bumps and all. But the terrains of Afghans provide them sort of like a cover. They can hide behind their own land terrains. So for that reasons, they were able to establish, or they were able to develop this art fair, that is guerrilla movement. and jealousy and hate, that is Prithviraj Chauhan and Jaichan. Like I said, there were internal rivalry even within the India. These regional kings, in spite of helping each other, they were working against each other. And feudatory nature of society, no standing army. Feudatory system is when there will be a king, but there will be nomads. I'm sorry, there will be all these zamindars kind of people, very high, rich aristocratic people, and they will also have power within themselves. So when these people are powerful, the kings, everything will be influenced by them. And fighting between feudal lords and lacked vigor and determination, no outstanding leader. So these were the reasons why these invaders could come here and defeat the Rajputs and plunder and loot us and kill thousands of us here in India. And the impact of raids was intermingling of culture. Like I said, both Hindu and Muslim culture, uh, they both intermingled, and this led to all three different forms of cultures in terms of art, music, dance, drawings, and artistic. Every other aspects came here. Sharing of knowledge, composition of culture manifested in architecture, language, music, food, and migration of large number of people, soldiers, traders, workers, lay the foundations of slave dynasty. And yes, if I would just say is that, just a recap of Mohammed Ghazni was that rise of empire in Central Asia, encouraged Persian culture, even though he was Turk. 1 second. See, are we having any technical problem? Are we having any technical problem? Is it buffering or something like that? Yeah, I suppose not. So, if we just look into the recap of Muhammad Ghazni, I would say a few important points: rise of empire in Central Asia, encouraged Persian culture, and even though he was Turk, looted and plundered India to accumulate resources, patronized art and architecture, and literature, Al-Baruni and Firdausi. And we know that Al-Baruni wrote an amazing book about India and not interested in building an empire here in India. Like I said, Ghazni all about was looting and plundering. And area overran was siesta, Multan, important trading centers in lower Indus, rich temples of northwest Punjab, Ujjain, Kalinga, Kannauj, Delhi, and Gujarat. Mostly the northern plains were completely devastated by Ghazni. And Gauri was during 1175 to 1206. His campaign in the sense war was fought five Rajput kingdoms with the Rathors, Chauhans, Solankis, Paramas, Chandelas. Fought two battles at terrain against Prithviraj Chauhan, won the second battle. Like I said, the first one, Gauri lost, but Prithviraj Chauhan was kind enough to let him go. But he came again in the second battle and kind of, I would say he tricked him. Prithviraj Chauhan did actually lose, but he was strict and appointed Qutb Aibak as governor of India and killed by rebels in 1206. The consequences of the Muhammad of Gauri's invasions here in India is that Turkish rule extended to Ganga Yamuna Doab, suppressions of Rajputs and other small kingdoms, Delhi Sultanate established by Aibak after Muhammad Gauri, intermingling and emergence of Indo-Islamic culture. New forms of culture was formed here in India. Now, this is just a brief timeline of the dynasties of the Delhi Sultanate. The first one is the Mamluk dynasty, which is, of course, yeah, the first one, which is the slave dynasty or the Qutbuddin Aimaks. And then we have the Khilji dynasty, which starts with the Jalauddin. And if you have seen the movie Padmavat, you would know that. And, under Jalauddin Khilji, the next successor was after Jalauddin comes Alauddin Khilji's successor. Then you have Tukla, Sayyid, and Lodi. At the end, Ibrahim Lodi will be overpowered and he will be killed in the battle by Babur the first, Mughal emperor here in India. So yes, so now we will just look into the basic characters or the features of these administration, which is Sultanate administration. Delhi Sultanate was a Muslim state which is followed by theocracy. That is, they were ruling depending upon the rules established by the Islam law. And so, Sultan was supreme executive, legislative, and judicial and military authority. He was assisted by a number of ministers. His chief prime minister, that is Wazis, supervised all the other ministers. Ministers in charge of army was called Arizai Mamluk. Diwan was the finance minister that we have, and the slave dynasty. These are the people that we have over here. Qutbuddin Aibak, Aram Shah Qutbuddin. It's actually he this Aram Shah were able to rule only for like 7 to 8 months, and he was killed by his brother-in-law Iltutmish. That is Qutbuddin Aibak's uh, son-in-law is Iltutmish, and uh, after that comes Razia Sultana. Actually, Iltutmish wanted Razia Sultana to be the successor, but we know what happens in a patriarchal society. All these people they don't want when a woman to be empowered. So there'll be lots of people from all over the place saying that no, we don't want a woman ruling us. So she was kept hold, and Rukuddin kind of ruled for a few months, and then Razia Sultana came, but even she was mercilessly killed by her own brothers. And Musin Bahram came, Giyasuddin Balban, and at the end, Musin Kaibat. The thing is that I am not speaking about all the rulers that we have, but only the most important or the prominent leaders or prominent kings in terms of your prelims and mains exams will be discussed over here. So Mamluk dynasty was founded by Muhammad Ghauri, and one thing we have to understand that the first sultan or first sultan of Mamluk or the Sale dynasty was Qutbuddin Aibak, but he wasn't the founder. The founder was Ghauri. Ghauri founded the empire and he established or he appointed Qutbuddin Aibak to be the governor. And after the death of Ghauri, he established himself to be the sultan. So the first one to be established in this kingdom was Muhammad Ghauri, and his successor was Aram Shah, and Iltutmish was son-in-law, and then next comes Razia Sultana, like I said. After the victory of Muhammad Ghauri before leaving to Afghanistan, a slave general Qutbuddin Aibak was left behind as the viceroy of India, and Qutbuddin Aibak founded the slave dynasty. He is also called the Mamluk Sultans. He built two mosques, Kuwalat ul Islam and Ajmer Mosque, and Ajmer Mosque is pretty much famous. His son Aram Shah succeeded him, but he was overthrown by Aibak's son-in-law, that is Iltutmish. And yes, the most important Qutub Minar was at first established by Qutbuddin Aibak, not the real one. I would say not real one in the sense, not the duplicate one. That is that is only the first few stories were laid. Each the height was increased by the next coming successor or next coming kings later on after that. The Qutbuddin Aibak only established the first few stories and all, and excuse me. And yes, Chengiz Khan had driven out his enemy Jalaluddin. So you have to remember this name, okay? This will come important. Just remember the name Jalaluddin. So we all know Chengiz Khan. He is a very ferocious, I would say, a conqueror. He's not a empire holder. He's actually a conqueror. He just goes out and conquers everyone. He mercilessly plunders and kills everyone who comes on the way. So he had an enmity with Jalaluddin and Iltutmish. He didn't when Jalaluddin came and asked for sort of like a fugitive here in Iltutmish. Iltutmish said, "No, I cannot look after you because I don't want to have any problems, Genghis Khan, and for protecting you." And he formed Turka in Chalisa. That is a group of 40 nobles who ruled during the period. Silver and copper coins were introduced by him. Iltutmish didn't consider his sons to be capable, so he nominated his daughter Razia Sultana as his successor. She had to face many challenges, but she proved to be an able and brave ruler. But unfortunately, she was able to rule only for a few years, and she was, like I said, mercilessly killed by her own brothers, especially when she was coming back after her marriage procession. And what a day to die. And yes, so like I said, Jalaluddin was the enemy of Genghis Khan, and the same Jalaluddin becomes the next ruler of the dynasty. Jalaluddin Khilji established the Khilji dynasty. He is founder of Turkish dynasty. and he was already 70 when he became the sultan, and he defeated the descendants of Balban, became victorious, came to power. He was kind-hearted, mild, and trusting in nature. If you have seen the movie Padmavat, the big fat guy, I don't know, I'm sorry if I don't remember the name, the big fat guy, and he was killed by Ranveer Singh in the movie. So that is Jalauddin Khilji. The most important event during the reign of Jalauddin was attack on the Yadav city of Devagiri. And the term Khilji was their designation. That is, like I said, Puranas and Khannas and all. The meaning of Khiljis is swordsmen. Although they had played a conspicuous role in success of Turkish armies in India, they had always been locked down upon by leading Turks, a dominant group during the slave dynasty. And Jalauddin Khilji was killed by his son-in-law, that is Alauddin Khilji. If you have seen the movie, you'll get more idea of after that. And yes, after 6 years of Jalauddin, he was killed by his own son-in-law, Alauddin Khilji, and he proclaimed himself to be the next leader. And Alauddin had to face rebellion of Mongols, but he killed most of them near Delhi. And as we have seen in the movie, he is very ambitious ruler, I would say. He's very ambitious and he's very rigorous. And he went out and captured lots of places. Yes, there's actually a very negative aspect also being attached to her. That is his obsession upon a different queen or a wife of a different, king. But that's a different case altogether. But he captured lots of places, he defeated lots of places, and he had lots of conquests during his period. And his military commander was Malik Kafur, and Malik Kafur also under his zip on the behalf of Alauddin Khilji also went out for lots of wars and military campaigns, and even collected lots of gold, elephants, horses for the Sultan. So this is the picture of Alauddin Khilji, and he was the first Turkish Sultan of Delhi who separated religion from politics. Like I said, his administration is very good. Until then, we have theocracy. That kingdom was ruled on the basis of religion, Islam. But over here, he found that, for example, when we are talking about capitalism, what happens in capitalism? One different aspect of capitalism is that these capitalist people, they are not bothered whether you are shudras or varnas. They just want to know, okay, fine, you are talented, okay, we'll get you the job, because capitalists are highly money driven. All that they care about is to garner lots of revenue, lots of profit, and minimize their revenue or minimize the expenditure. For that sake, all they want to have is lots of revenue, high skilled people, high skilled people. So same thing also, if I could say over here, yeah, same thing also I could say over here, that is he was the first one who had a very good administrative system, and he didn't mix religion, politics and administration all together. He was very much sure to have everything separate. And the most important experiment undertaken by Alauddin was the attempt to control the markets. And after controlling the most of the northern India, he brought many changes like market regulations, that is fixing the prices. uh, he looked into all the aspects in terms. For example, when I say that, okay, I am giving my soldiers this is, for example, 10 rupees. So I have to make sure that what are the commodities that my soldiers or my commanders could get from the amount of 10 rupees. For that sake, he didn't devalue the money. What he did is that he controlled the market. He fixed the price for all the commodities for everything, and made sure that no forms of you know uh, for example, if I would say that, okay, Mr. Farmer, you can sell your onions only at the price of 3 rupees. I can't say that. When I make the price at 3 rupees, when I say that you can only sell all these onions at 3 rupees, I have to make sure that all these, you know, crop facilities and all these irrigation facilities and seeds and everything that goes into the expenditure, everything will be less than 1 rupee, and only after that the farmer will able to have a profit when he sells for 3 rupees. So everything was properly regulated. He was a very good finance minister, I would say. It's very much good of a finance minister and very good home minister, and he was able to have lots of administrative reforms during his period. And sugar cooking oil helped soldiers and common men build markets. Began expeditions, he conquered Yadavas, Kakatiyas, Hoysalas, Pandyas, but did not annex them. Measures against nobles, spy system restrictions, military reforms, imported horses. That is, you know, because we know that what is good for us, we'll import from the other. So even horses were imported, and branding of horse. That is, for example, one single army officer will be given the whole responsibility of the horse, his horse given to him. So that will be branded. A seal will be branded on him, on the horse, saying that this belongs to that person. So he have to look into every aspect of the horses, and the money also for that will be given to them, and given I cards to every soldier. So I cards, I would say first form of Aadhaar. Aadhaar we having it now. When is it? It's, I think it started by in 2011 or 12, but here they started giving I cards to but at this time. And revenue reforms, he cancelled all land grants given to Muslim landlords, handheld the Hindu landlords harshly, two officers, Divani Riyasat and Sahana-e-Mandi. That is, he understood that the rulers before him, they were totally lenient towards their own religion, because they started giving all these lands to these Muslim nobles, saying that okay, you are from our own community, we'll give you all these land. So when Alauddin Khilji said no, why, what makes you deserving all these land? Just because you're Muslims. So, don't expect that from me. I'll be taking over the land because I need that for giving out any, revenue system for any welfare for the society. So, he's actually a very good king in terms of all these. But yes, Alauddin Khilji is also, associated with negative aspects as well. But he's also, we have to look into it that he was able to have a very good system of economics here in India, and control this process, and they punish those who violated these regulations. And the next dynasty comes the Tukla Dynasty, and no, Alauddin Khilji wasn't the last of the Khilji dynasty. His successors will be coming, but we will be discussing only the most important or the prominent rulers during each dynasty. And next comes the Tukla Dynasty. And Khusrau Khan, the last king of the Khilji dynasty, was killed by Ghazni Malik, and Ghazni Malik ascended the throne and assuming the title Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. He died in an accident, and his son Ulugh Khan succeeded him under the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So the first one of Tughlaq dynasty was Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, and his name was Ghazni Malik, and he was also, I would say, an administrator, and he kind of like, he was a traitor. He traited his own king, and he killed his own king, and he overpowered. Like how generals of many kingdoms, they will be, for example, Tipu Sultan. He was first a general, and he killed his king, and he became the king. So like that. And then comes Mohammed bin Tughlaq. The Prince Jonah, the son of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, ascended the throne in 1325. He tried to introduce many administrative reforms. He died while campaigning in Sindh against Turkey, a Turkish slave. And then comes Firozshah Tughlaq. Firozshah Tughlaq was, even just by saying his name, you would know that he's very much famous in terms of infrastructural developments. We have lots of cities named after him. I would say in UP, and we have lots of places named after him. And he was a cousin of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He established of Divani Khaira department for poor and needy people, Divani Bundagar. That is, all these shelter homes, welfare homes for these poor people, needy people, and making Iqtidar system hereditary. And Tughlaq dynasty would not survive much after Firoz Shah's death. The Malwa, Gujarat, and Sarki kingdoms broke away from the Sultanate. That is, these Tughlaq, for example, these people, they'll be having many neighboring kings and kingdoms. So they'll be saying that, okay, you be better under our control, or we will overpower you. Okay, sort of like a subsidiary alliance. So once Firozshah died, the kings of these Malwa and Gujarat and Sharki was okay. Now we are not under anyone. Now the next successors under him were not that much able, so we are no under obliged under him. So the next comes the Sayyid dynasty, and Kizgan, a lieutenant of Timur, was Sayyid, and so his dynasty is called Sayyid dynasty. Khizr Khan, and Timur's nominee, captured Delhi and was proclaimed the new sultan in the first of the Sayyid dynasty. They ruled over Delhi and surrounding district. The next successor was Mubarak Khan, Mubarak Shah. He succeeded Khizr at the throne after successful expeditions against Mewatis and Katehars and the Gangetic Doab area. He was killed by nobles in his own court. Then Alam Shah, the last Said king, descended in favor of Balochi Lodi and himself retired. Thus began the Lodi dynasty, which confined to Delhi a few surrounding, and that's how the Lodi dynasty came. And I would say that even Lodi dynasty couldn't sustain much, and not much of rulers came after in the Lodi dynasty. And the last one, Ibrahim Lodi, was overpowered by a Mughal emperor. And the Bahulu Lodi established the Lodi dynasty, and he ruled from 1451 to 1526. He was previously a governor of Punjab. So already they have a sort of like a power under them, and when they feel that okay, the ruler or the kings or the emperors of these so and so places are not very much powerful right now, so this is the right time we'll try to overpower them. Under the Sultan of Delhi, Bahulu Lodi first occupied the province of Punjab and later on captured Delhi and became the Sultan of Delhi on April 19, 1451 under the title of Sultan Abdul Muzaffar Bahadur Shah Ghazi. And now it's just about talking about the whole of Sultanate period economic conditions. And during those period was agrarian society, that is almost majority of people were dependent upon the agriculture as a source of income and occupation. And agriculture was a major occupation at that time. Land was a source of production. Produce was generally sufficient. The village was self-sufficient unit. Self-sufficient is when you don't need to sell it to far away land. Everything that you need, resources will be in the place itself. That is, every place is developed and have their own metropolitan city by themselves itself. And industries that we're talking about. There were villages and cottage industries. The labor employed was family members and techniques was conservative. These were industries of sugar, sense, and spirit. And like any other typical traditional families that we have in very remote areas, for example, a jaggery making factory. They'll be having five people, a father, mother, and three kids. So three kids will be into their own family business, and when these people get married, their spouses and children will also get into the business. So it's sort of like a family business over there. And I think I should just even more repeat the same sentences. In spite of all these, uh, emperors, in spite of all these, invaders coming here, still we were rich. Okay. So trade and commerce was that inland and foreign trade flourished. And as for the internal trade, was we had trade is class of merchants and shopkeepers. And tax system was that sultans of Delhi sultanates collected five categories of taxes which fall under the economic system of the empire. And this might come for the preliminary examination. The most able ruler for the administrative system was Alauddin Khilji. And the downfall of Delhi sultanates is that, yes, like I said, it's not necessarily, for example, the Akbar was a very much able ruler, but his son wasn't very good. You know, and later on his wife Noor Jahan, Akbar's son, wasn't very good, and his wife during the later period, she was the one who looked after the administrative and the civic policies of Mughal system. And yes, absence of strong rules and enlightened policies of the government, all they wanted was that okay, I am the ruler, I get all the tax and revenue, I would look after you, I'll be happy, I'll be eating, I'll be rich. And absence of popular support, since they were very rich, there is no for example, why are we learning? For example, why are you being an IAS aspirant? Why do you want to be an IAS aspirant? Why do you want to be an IAS officer tomorrow? So that you can better your situation. It doesn't matter what your situation is right now, in terms of career, in terms of financial, in terms of societal. You want to be betterment of yourself. But these people were self-sufficient. They were like, okay, I'm happy. I'm getting all the riches of the world. My people are also happy because they are very rich, and I'm getting all the food. So I have no problem, no threats, no nothing. And they didn't even care. 17 times people came over here and looted here. And even after that, other people also came for 7 times and looted here. But even then, they were highly sufficient because they have no queries to worry about. And invasions of time, yes. In conclusion, is that these people they ruled from 1206 to 1526 when the last was replaced by the Mughal dynasty. So this was in short all about the Delhi Sultanate. I try to make everything very short and crisp and to the point, and the whole of your sultanate is being covered here in this one single presentation or one this lecture. And I really hope that I was able to convey myself. And if there's any doubt, you could ask me right now, or you could ask me in tomorrow's class when we have a live. So that's it for today's class. So bye all aspirants. All the best for your examination. So Just keep checking on the UPSC site. They were supposed to give out the registration forms on 10th of February, but we still haven't got it. So just keep on refreshing the page. We'll be having the notification being sent out. So that's all, everyone.